And it's time to dump on some of my fellow Americans, on all of us. How does our country stack up against, I don't know, China in terms of education? How smart are our people versus the Chinese? What are we learning versus them? How are we in math versus them? You know, stuff like that. Michael Snyder's website, endoftheamericandream.com. Now, granted, again, Trump just got started 3 years ago. We've been dumbed down by this damn, Department of Education with their Common Core crap. So, granted, remember, we used to be the top 3 in healthcare, and then we became like number 40, number 50. Whoa. How did that happen? Well, it happened when you could get your whole family insured for about $400 a month, and then all of a sudden it cost you about $1,400 a month to do the same. That's around the time that changed. However, this article, How Dumb Have We Become? Chinese students are 4 grade levels ahead of U.S. students in math, by Michael Schneider. How in the world is America supposed to remain the greatest country on earth when other nations are obviously running circles around us when it comes to education? As you will see below, one survey found that 15-year-old students in China are almost 4 full grade levels ahead of 15-year-old students in the United States in mathematics. This is one of the most damning indictments of our education system that I have ever come across, and it is yet another clear indication that what we are doing is simply not working. Our children are not being given the tools that they need to compete in our modern society, and we have only ourselves to blame. Well, Michael, none of us actually wanted Common Core. None of us actually gets to set the curriculum. Well, yeah, but you vote for your local school district, 59, 60, school district appoint me for do nothing. But again, everything is handed out from the federal government. The Department of Education hands out everything. Oh, and we give federal funding to local schools. And if you don't follow our guidelines and our curriculum, we pull funding. Funding that you've now relied upon over the years and you can't afford to lose. See, that's how that works. So in all fairness, not really ourselves to blame, but yeah, we could be protesting a little bit more. We could be making a bigger stink about it, but nobody really is. So on that side, I could see we do have a little bit to blame to take on that. I don't have any though. What do you mean? Because we homeschool, son. Ooh. You can't argue against that. And the teacher is sitting right over there, tapping on her phone. Here, take a look. Right over there, tapping on her phone, waiting for me to get done doing some videos. Which this will be, I'm only doing 2 today. This will be my last one. And then we're fully to blame if our kids don't do well. And me, I just blame it on her. Well, you're the teacher. Sometimes we'll be out and the kids will say something stupid. Who's your teacher? Oh. You know, I know who the teacher is. Just a joke. Perhaps you are thinking that the survey must be flawed somehow. Well, this wasn't some fluky survey that was only given to a handful of students. Every 3 years, the Program for International Student Assessment evaluates 15-year-old students all over the world in a variety of subjects. And in 2018, approximately 32 million students participated. Now, that's a poll I want to see in this country for political reasons. Oh, suspected. What is this? Could be a spammer. Stand by. Hello? I don't speak freaky deaky Dutch. Spanish. Anyways, can we have a poll of the Democratic contender against President Trump of 32 million people? No. We're going to sample 1,000 of the same Democrats over and over again. When your sample size is 32 million students, I think it's safe to say that the result of the survey should be taken pretty seriously. And what the survey discovered is that U.S. students continue to fall behind in math. In particular, we have fallen way, way behind the Chinese. The following comes from Psychology Today. There is no excuse for the U.S. when students in Beijing, Shanghai, something, perform near 4 grade levels ahead of U.S. students in mathematics. In addition, the survey also discovered that most disadvantaged students in China actually performed on par with the average U.S. student. The 10% most disadvantaged students in China or in Macau or Estonia, those students actually do as well or better than the average student in the US. So clearly some countries do better with their disadvantaged students, where you see less variability with students from the most privileged backgrounds. What in the world has happened to us? We used to have the best education system in the world, but now we have become a nation of drooling idiots that can't even think straight. Let me give you an example. According to Fox News, a police officer in Los Angeles was recently caught fondling a dead woman by his own body camera. That's a new one to me. I'll just skip the news part, no big deal. That is dumb on so many levels, and now that police officer's career is over. Let me give you another example of how dumb we have become. South Dakota has decided to crack down on the meth epidemic in their state, but unfortunately not a lot of thought was put into the advertising slogan for the campaign. The state of South Dakota has a new anti-drug campaign, but its slogan is raising eyebrows because it's, quote, meth, we're on it, end quote. Which could be taken the wrong way. You think? Of course, it is much dumber to actually be on meth. Approximately 24 million Americans have taken an illegal drug within the last 30 days, and it is getting worse with each passing year. I know that I'm being very hard on the United States in this article, but there is no excuse for what has happened to us. We were once a great light to the rest of the world, but today a large chunk of our population can barely read, barely write, barely speak or function in society. Just consider the following numbers. Number 1 through 18. One recent survey found that 74% of Americans don't even know how many amendments are in the Bill of Rights. I'm going to ask you right now, because some of y'all be like, oh, damn. He just put me on the spot. Well, good thing you're not on camera and you got to answer me right away. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the answer because I feel bad for everybody who don't know. 10. Bill of Rights, the first 10 and most important amendments. An earlier survey, number 2, discovered that 37% of Americans cannot name a single right protected by the First Amendment. What is the first thing that you think? Oh, the right to free speech. Say what you want, speech. I mean, that's the gist of it, right? 37% couldn't even name one single right? The main one itself? Shockingly, number 3, only 26% of Americans can name all 3 branches of the government. Executive, judicial, and that one's for you. Come on, man. Write it down in the comment section. I'm not cheating for you every time. Number 4, during the 2016 election, more than 40% of Americans did not know who was running for vice president from either of the major parties. Number 5, North Carolina is considering passing a law which would mean only scores lower than 39% would qualify for an F grade in North Carolina public schools. So an F, if you get a score lower than 39% an F, whoa. How bad has it gotten to have to do that? Number 6, 30 years ago, I'm not going to read the numbers. I'll just keep talking. I'll just keep telling you. 30 years ago, the U.S. awarded more high school diplomas than anyone in the world. Today, again, like our healthcare, we've fallen to 36th place. According to the Pentagon, 71% of our young adults are ineligible to serve in the U.S. military because they are either too dumb, too fat, or have a criminal background. 71%? For the very first time, Americans are more likely to die from an opioid overdose than they are from a car accident. One study discovered that 1/3 of all American teenagers haven't read a single book in the past year. A recent survey found that 45% of U.S. teenagers are online almost constantly. Today, the average American spends 86 hours a month using a smartphone. Overall, the average U.S. adult logs 6 hours, 43 minutes of total screen time daily. In more than half of all U.S. states, the highest paid public employees in the state is a football coach. Now that's some priority there. I mean, God, you guys should be getting paid huge numbers. He's a football coach. I mean, that's extremely important. During one 7-day period last summer, a total of 16,000 official complaints about human feces were submitted to the city of San Francisco. And apparently the problem is very real because one investigation found 300 piles of human feces on the streets of downtown San Francisco. Every 24 hours, more than a third of all Americans eat fast food. Less than half of all Americans know which country used atomic bombs at the end of World War II. Even though we fought a war in Iraq for 8 years long, 6 out of 10 adults, young adults, cannot find Iraq on a map of the Middle East. And that same survey found that 75% of our young adults cannot even locate Israel. Today, the average college freshman in the United States reads at a 7th grade level. That's the end of the 1 through 18. Are you convinced yet? As a society, we have become exceedingly dumbed down. Again, that's the key here. We've been purposefully, by this system, the Obama system, the Clinton system, the George Bush system, dumb us down and tax the crap out of us on the way. And we cannot, and we can even see this at the highest levels of our government. We've been dumbed down. Just take a look at some of the people we have representing us in Congress. If George Washington, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson were alive today, what do you think that they would make of our current crop of politicians? When our founders spoke, their language was so elegant. But of course, we couldn't have politicians speak to us that way today because nobody would be able to understand what they were saying. Our society is literally in a death spiral, but nobody seems to have a way to stop it. Educating our children properly is one of the most basic things that needs to be addressed, but unfortunately the left, Democrats, has total control of our public schools now, and that means that there's no hope for a major turnaround anytime soon. And keep in mind, there's a whole heck of a lot, for some odd reason, of new teachers that are massively liberal, left-leaning, biased in the public school system, in the college system. It's just interesting how so many of these professors and teachers just happen to be liberal leftists who were accepted for the job. So even though Trump's president, he doesn't have the authority to start firing college professors and firing your local school teachers. He can't do that. So you're stuck with your kid going to that school. Maybe you got lucky and got yourself a nice Republican teacher, but chances are you probably don't. Anyways, something to think about. Take care.